What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be talking about defense of the Christian faith. So I'm going to be going through a book. I know that I said that I was going to talk about what the Bible says about the experience with death, whether we can contact people after they're dead, just some of these things that can kind of happen. You see a lot of people writing posts to dead relatives after they die or whatever. Is that okay? What does the Bible say about all that kind of stuff? But I want to take a little bit more time with that, and I've been really busy with Christmas shopping and all that good stuff. So we're going to be going through a book about the defense of Christian faith. This is the book we're going to be going through. I'm not saying that this is the best book for defense of Christian faith, but it's very short, and it breaks everything down very, very simply. So I'm just going to go through it very quickly. I'm going to try to get this done in like 15 to 20 minutes and give you guys a simple outline of what a defense of the Christian faith might look like. Now, these are all things that I would like you guys to look into more. I would like you to even read this book. It's a short read. You can get in an audiobook, but there are more books. This is a great one. I know I recommended this at youth group, but this is called The Historical Reliabilities of the Gospel. That is a big read. There's also C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity is a great read. I read that for the third time probably earlier this year. There is Alicia Childers' book, Another Gospel, that she kind of gives a defense of the Christian faith. There is, what's the other book? Oh, Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. That's a really good one, and that's a very fun read. I haven't read through Cold Case Christianity yet, but I've heard that that's a really good one. Yeah, there's a bunch of really good books out there about the defense of your Christian faith. And the goal of this is to help you guys become more grounded in your Christian faith, help you guys understand, hey, why do I think that there's a God? Hey, why do I think that the God of the Bible is the God that we should be following? And also to give you guys some answers for when you are sharing your faith. Someone might ask you one of these questions, and so that way you guys have an answer to these things. So this book's called Core Facts, Why Christianity Makes Sense. And all of these letters stand for something, stand for a part of the defense of the Christian faith. So I'm going to go through them all. And I'm going to try to go through them quickly because I've already burned 2.5 minutes here. So we're going to start with the C. The C of Core Facts stands for cause, meaning the universe had a cause. Now, pretty much all of these arguments have like a separate second name that is the more technical name that they're known by. So this one would be the Kalam cosmological argument. And the Kalam cosmological argument says this, and I've got some notes written in here for us, but it essentially says this. Everything that begins to exist must have a cause for its existence. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe must have had a cause for existence. So, a couple of the reasons I'm trying to make everything simpler, not because I'm dumbing it down for you guys, but making it simpler so that way I can go a little bit faster. So essentially, the universe is slowly dying, therefore it could not have existed for eternity past. It could not have never had a start. The universe had to have had a start, therefore it had a cause, and everything that has a cause therefore it had a beginning, and everything that has had a beginning has a cause. Now, you might tell this to somebody, and they will say, well, what's the cause of God then? That's a completely moot point, because God never had a beginning. For a being to create time and matter and space and energy, they have to exist outside of time and matter and space and energy. And I know that that's partially a debate on whether God bounds himself in time or not. I don't believe that he does, but I understand that's a debated topic. But that doesn't change the fact that God, even if he chooses to exist within time, that doesn't change the fact that God created time from outside of it. So God never had a beginning, because there was no beginning before God created the universe. So that's point number one. The universe had a cause. So everything that began, that's also called the Kalam cosmological argument. I believe that there's a book on the Kalam cosmological argument by William Lane Craig. I have never read it before, but I'm sure it is good. So the Kalam cosmological argument, or C, the universe had a cause. O, the universe has order. This is also known as the fine-tuning argument. So the fine-tuning argument goes as follows. I'm just going to read it from right here. The existence of fine-tuning is not improbable under theism. 2, the existence of fine-tuning is very improbable under the atheist single universe hypothesis. And 3, from premises 1 and 2 and the prime principle of confirmation, it follows that the fine-tuning data provides strong evidence to favor the design hypothesis over the atheistic single universe hypothesis. So what this is saying is that in order for us to exist here and now where we are, the universe has to be very, very finely tuned for our existence. If anything is just a little bit out of whack, it completely throws off the possibility for our existence. So, without God finely tuning those things, without a mind finely tuning these things in order to be perfectly primed for our existence, we would not exist. So everything in the universe is finely tuned for our existence. Everything in the universe is ordered for our existence. And therefore there is a God who has finely tuned it. That's called the fine-tuning argument, or O, the universe has order. I know that I'm blowing through these, and there are objections to all of these things that I'm obviously not covering. I'm not trying to cover everything in this video. If there's anything that you guys have questions about, you can put them in the comments so that I can go into them a little bit more in depth, or you can text me so I can go into a little bit more in depth. But I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of how good the defense for the Christian faith is. And so C, the universe had a cause. O, the universe has order. R, the universe has rules. C.S. Lewis actually in the book Mere Christianity goes over this pretty well, eloquently he puts it. So this would be called the moral argument for God's existence. So what this argument says is this: objective moral values and duties exist, right? We all know when something is wrong. We all know when something is right. We all know that the Holocaust is wrong. We all know that giving money to charity is right. And I know that these are generalities when I'm talking about giving money to charity. Obviously, the Holocaust is objectively wrong. So those are objective moral values and duties. Number 2, if objective moral values and duties exist, God exists as their foundation. And number 3, God exists. So in order for there to be moral laws, there has to be a moral lawgiver, which a moral lawgiver has to have a mind in order to give those moral laws. So we need something to exist with a mind in order to give us moral laws that some people might call a conscience. Some people might call the idea of karma, even, I think, kind of even points towards these moral laws a little bit. And there hasn't been a society that has existed outside of these objective moral truths. Now, there have been societies that have strayed from some of these objective moral truths. But there has C.S. Lewis puts it much more eloquently than I'm about to, but there's never been a society that that praises people for and thinks that the person who is the best person is the person who is constantly going back on their word, or they think that the best person is the person who has betrayed the most people. There has never been a society in the world who has thought that. There have been societies that have strayed from those moral objectives, like I said, but never a society that has gone completely opposite to them, which proves that there are objective moral values and duties. So there has to be a moral lawgiver. So C, the universe had a cause. O, the universe has order. R, the universe has rules. And E, the end of core, the universe has, you can have an experience of God. Now, obviously, this is going to be the most subjective point out of all of these, but I still think that it's a strong proof of the existence of God. For example, the woman at the well, she didn't really know much about God. She really didn't know anything in general other than her experience that she had with Jesus, and she was able to take that and share that with other people. Now, the breakdown of this sort of argument goes like this. I have had an experience of God's existence, right? So that's individuals. I'm going to talk about myself. I've had an experience of God's existence. If I have perceived X to be the case, then I am warranted in believing that X is the case. Therefore, I am warranted in believing God's existence, right? I have had an experience of God's existence, therefore it makes sense that I believe that God exists, right? And there are millions and millions of peoples in different languages, in different churches, in different denominations, with different preachers and different versions of the Bible, that have all had very, very similar experiences with God. They've all had similar stories with God, similar ways that God has worked in their lives that we can compare and contrast. And obviously God works in different ways in other people's lives, but we can see if all of these millions and millions of people are having very, very similar experiences of God, then it makes sense that millions of people having an experience with God and being warranted in the belief of his existence is a very, very strong case for the existence of God, even if it is objective and maybe a little bit anecdotal. So that's core. That's all of the arguments for the existence of God. The universe has a cause. That's the Kalam cosmological argument. The universe has order. That's the fine-tuning argument. The universe has rules. That is the moral argument. And you can have an experience with God. So that is core. That is talking about God and his existence. Now, why do we believe? So we believe that God exists now. Why do we believe in the God of the Bible? Now, obviously, you can kind of point back to the moral argument. The God of the Bible has morals that line up with the morals that are etched on our hearts. Okay? That's my dryer going off right now. Now we're going to talk about Jesus, okay? Because this is especially the gospel accounts of Jesus are the strongest reason why the God of the Bible, why we should believe in the God of the Bible. I'm not saying it's the only reason. I'm just saying it's the strongest reason. So we're going to talk about the crucifixion, the death and resurrection of Christ, and the strong arguments that we have for that. So letter F would be the crucifixion is fatal. Now, there are a lot of reasons why we believe this. There are a lot of arguments against this, right? There are people that say that he just fainted, right? But that doesn't make sense because the gospel accounts tell us that a spear was shoved into his side and blood and water came out. That's only something that happens after somebody has died. Some people say that he never resurrected bodily, which we'll get into in a second. But the crucifixion was fatal. I don't think that people understand that the Romans at this time were professional killers. This is something that they did. They didn't mess up killing someone, right? There are, I don't think, any accounts, if I remember correctly, there are no accounts of a crucifixion being botched, right? Like they got him every time they killed him. So the crucifixion was fatal, and the Roman soldiers would have made sure of that because if you know, the Roman soldiers at that time, if they didn't carry out a sentence for someone, then they had to take on that sentence. So if they didn't carry out this sentence of death, they would have had to take on that sentence of death. So the crucifixion was fatal, and the Roman soldiers would have made sure that it was. Letter A, Jesus appeared to others after his death. Now, this is where a book like this would come in, the historical reliabilities of the gospel. Like I said, I know it's a long read, but this gives a very, very strong case for why you can believe the things that the gospel says, even just as historical facts, okay? So we can see that Jesus appeared to the 12 disciples, and Jesus appeared to, or I guess 11 disciples, and Jesus appeared to 500 more people afterwards. So what was I going to say? I think I lost my place where my note is. Oh no, here it is. Yeah, it says here, and that he was seen of Cephas and then of the 12. So it was 12. I said 11 because Judas doesn't, everything that happened with him. So, and that he was seen of Cephas and then of the 12. After that, he was seen of above 500 brethren at once, of whom the greater part remain unto this present, but some are fallen asleep. Now, this is a Bible verse, okay? This is in Galatians, I believe. So most of these people were present, but some of them had fallen asleep. After that, he was seen of James, then of all the apostles. And last of all, he was seen of me also as one born out of due time. So these are 500 people, okay? Now, the objective of the Romans was to prove that Jesus had died, right? That's why they had guards posted outside of the tomb of Jesus. Wow, I didn't expect that. He had guards posted outside of the tomb of they had guard posted outside of the tomb of Jesus to make sure that no one could take his body, which is a lot sometimes what other people think happened, right? And so their objective was to make sure that Jesus's body wasn't taken, that it didn't appear that Jesus had resurrected from the dead. That was their prerogative. And so when there are 500 people going around and saying that, hey, I saw Jesus when he appeared afterwards, that's a big deal, right? The Romans would have been trying to do everything that they could to silence these people. And that brings us to the next point, and I think that this is actually the strongest point for the resurrection of Christ. The disciples were committed, right? They couldn't find anyone to renege on their word here, okay? The disciples were committed. Now, I have a something by Sean McDowell here, okay? So he wrote I think it's actually a paper called A Historical Evaluation of the Evidence for the Death of the Apostles as Martyrs for Their Faith. That was his dissertation in the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. But essentially what he was trying to do is find out how many of the apostles were martyred. How many of the apostles were martyred? And it's everybody but John, the son of Zebedee. John, the son of Zebedee. So Peter was martyred. Paul was martyred. James, the brother of Jesus, was martyred. John was not martyred, but I believe he was, let me see if I can, I just want to make sure that I'm getting it right. I believe he was boiled alive and then banished to an island. So it's not like he had it good. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure that's the case, but yeah, he was boiled in oil and then banished to Patmos, or Patmos, or however you want to say it. So Peter was martyred. Paul was martyred. James was very probably martyred. John was not martyred. Thomas, more probable than not, he was martyred. Andrew, more probable than not, he was martyred. James, son of Zebedee, he was definitely martyred. Philip was possibly martyred. Bartholomew was more possible than not martyred. Matthew was possibly martyred. James, son of Alphaeus, more possible than not, he was martyred. Thaddeus was possibly martyred. Simon the Zealot was possibly martyred. Matthias was possibly martyred. It's very, very probable that all of the apostles outside of John, the son of Zebedee, were martyred. So understand, we need to come up with why would we create a fake faith, right? Why would we create a fake faith? To gain followers, right? To get women, to get money, right? To get status. None of these men had any of these things, right? And guess what? No one is willing to die for something that they know is not true. Okay, no one is willing to die for something that they know is not true. If someone knows something is not true, when they come to the point of death, they're going to take back that, right? They're going to say, okay, yeah, you're right, I was lying. I'm not trying to die for this. All of the apostles went to their graves saying that Jesus appeared to them. So at the very least, they believed that Jesus appeared to them after his death. Otherwise, they would not have been willing to die, right? They didn't get money. They didn't get women, right? This isn't the Mormons or the Muslims, right? They didn't get status. They didn't get any of these things. They got persecution and death, and that's all. And they knew that it was worth it because they saw Jesus after his death. So the disciples were committed. Now T, the testimony about Jesus. This is very, very similar to E, right? We can have testimony about Jesus, right? These are the testimonies that we see in the Gospels. These are the testimonies that we see in the lives of individuals. Testimonies about Jesus can be just as strong as that experience that we have with God. And we should take them seriously. Like I said, this is a great book. It really grounds you in the Gospels being very, very accurate historically. People like to point out differences between them, but in all reality, that just makes the accuracy, the case for their accuracy even stronger. And then S, this one isn't really a proof of the Gospels or a proof of Jesus, but Jesus does offer salvation, right? So we try to go over this every week in our small groups, right? The ABCs. if you admit that you are a sinner, if you believe that Jesus Christ died on the sin, and if you call on him for salvation, he will come and save you. And that's how this book ends, is that telling us that Jesus offers salvation. So now that we see that God exists, because the universe had a cause, and the universe has order, and it has rules, and we can have an experience with God. And we see that it's very, very probable that the God that exists is the God of the Bible, because no other religion has a really solid story and proof of any miracles like the resurrection of Jesus, where Jesus was fatally killed on the cross, and he appeared to other people after his death. And people were so committed that they were willing to die. And so many people that have testimonies about Jesus, including those that are given in the gospel accounts. Now that we can see all those things and be really solidified in our faith, we need to understand that Jesus offers salvation. And at this point, once we understand those things, it would be silly of us not to take that salvation that he offers to us, not to take that free gift that he offers to us. So if you haven't done that, then you need to get on that. You need to admit that you're a sinner. You need to believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins and rose again and appeared to people, right? Like we just talked about. And then all you need to do once you realize those two things is call on him for salvation. Confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus Christ. So I tried to make that short. I'm just over 20 minutes. So hopefully next video will be about the death stuff that I was talking about before. But yeah, that's about it. See ya.